RSA conference attendees and community. Oh my goodness, this is the beginning. This is just the beginning of the week. We have so many amazing things planned, and you guys are starting off, you picked well. You're starting off in a best place ever, which is about on innovation, which of course is so important to me because that's what I work on. So I want to invite you to also a couple other sessions, including the Innovation Sandbox Contest, which will be in room 204 starting at 10:50. But this morning we have something that's really important. We need to have different voices and different perspectives come and share their views on what's happening in cybersecurity, especially around innovation. And today we have 5 of the leading VCs coming up and sharing their thoughts about what's happening in the market right now. There's been a lot of changes. There's a lot of economic changes. There's a lot of headwinds with geopolitics, and they are going to break that down and take it, give you a chance to think about it in a different perspective. So to get us started, I'd like to introduce Dave DeWalt, who is going to be the moderator of the session, and I'll let Dave finish and introduce the rest of the team.
Cecilia, thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate so much that you do for RSA, by the way. This woman is, I always say, the brains behind the operations here at RSA. So thank you for everything you do for the community. Appreciate you for sure.
Actually, I'm taking this one because
No, you can't have it. Okay. Hi, everybody. You guys all awake? Ready to go? All right, well, let's have a little fun. I really want to introduce my guests because not only are they the smartest people in the world when it comes to venture capital and investing, they're all my friends, and it's an honor to have them as my friends as well. So I'm not sure what order I'm introducing everybody, but I'll go in order of the seats. Mark Hatfield, come on up here, my friend. Mark is with 1011 Ventures, and just an amazing venture capitalist as well, and has done so many cyber. He's dedicated in the world of cyber. In fact, the group you're about to meet has deployed billions of dollars of capital in cyber and has had billions of dollars of outcome in the world of cyber as well. So congratulations, Mark, and thank you for coming. What does 1011 mean exactly?
101, a tipped binary math.
I knew
Remember,
that.
and you were there when we were branding it. It was in black hat, and it turns out 1011 is a great card hand for blackjack. There you go.
You guys all pay attention to that? Perfect. Thank you, Mark. All right, next up is Yoav. Come on up, Yoav. Yoav is with YL Ventures. Yoav, thank you so much for coming, my friend.
Pleasure.
This man knows and has invested in some of the coolest companies in Israel as well and has had such incredible success. And I know you now live in the Marin, San Francisco area as well as Tel Aviv too.
Yeah.
Thank you and congratulations on all your success. I know you're close to $1 billion in capital raised and deployed as well.
Yep.
Congratulations.
Following your footsteps.
Something like that, if I can only learn from you. Next up is Chenxi. Come on up, Chenxi. Thank you so much. Chenxi Wang with Rain Capital. Thank you so much. Our longtime investor as well with Rain Capital. Chenxi, thank you so much for being here as well, and congratulations on all your success too. Look forward to hearing from you. And Nadav Zafrir, thank you so much, my friend. Good to see you as well. By the way, Nadav's with Team 8. You guys all hear of Team 8? Pretty cool company. Comes from the 8200 unit of the Israeli Defense Forces. And I'm wearing my Israel-American badge today after 25 years of being in Israel. I'm proud to be with all of you and appreciate all that you do. Congratulations, Nadav has had 1.2 billion of exits in 2024 alone.
Oh.
Seriously. That requires a round of applause. All right, let's all sit down if we can and have some fun. I've only had a half a coffee. Wait till I have a whole coffee. So I apologize in advance. These guys know me really well. Oh my God, friends, thank you so much for all joining. And I'm gonna start out for just 1 minute. What a year 2023 is. And I'm gonna wanna get your perspectives on kind of a past, present, and future if we can for a second. I wanna kind of recap 2023 from a venture capital point of view, maybe kind of look at 2024 and then talk about a little more in Horizon 1 if we can. 2023, if you don't all know, was a bit of a down year in venture capital investing in the cyberspace. Although when we say a down year, it was down 30% roughly from an all-time high of 242 billion in a single year in 2022. You guys all get that? 242 billion. So down to about 170 billion in 2023. But it was a bit of a tale of two cities. So one side of it was quite a bit down in the growth and later stage rounds of venture, and still quite a bit up in the early stage and seed rounds that really was kind of indicative of the markets that we're in. In fact, over 42% of all the deals done were early seed stage in 2023, which is very different than years past where we watched a lot of really big late stage rounds, sometimes upwards to 500 million to $1 billion investing very late into companies. So very interesting year, 2023. Second biggest investment year in the history of cyber still. So in the grand scheme of things that are going on, pretty amazing time. So maybe I'll start with Nadav on that side, since he sold $1.2 billion of companies, and I've been working with him for a long time. He's amazing, and served the Israeli IDF 8200 as Brigadier General. Talk a little bit about 2023 for a minute from your vantage point with Israel investments for a second. I want to kind of hit everybody for a minute or two. Just give us all a summary of what you saw in the last 12 months.
You know, so we started the year on the heels of 2021, 2022, where, you know, valuations were just going crazy. And any company that had like some founder that, you know, could put up a presentation, could go out and get any amount of money. In some ways, I think what happened in 2023 is a good thing for the industry, right? I think that we got a little bit more grounded, a little bit more humble. We saw that companies really need to have a product. They really need to have a business plan. And ultimately, even in the 21st century, the basic laws of economy still work, right? You know, ultimately, at some point, there's a customer that needs to pay for the product. And that, you know, you can't just keep on raising money and growing valuations. And in that sense, I think it's a good thing for our industry. You know, you started with a tale of two cities. I do think it's, you know, the worst of times and the best of times. The worst of times because what we're seeing in cybersecurity is, you know, the mix of the geopolitics that are taking down inhibitions from attackers, blurring line between nation states and cyber criminals on the one hand, and the surge of AI on the other hand are creating this perfect storm. So on the one hand, amazing opportunities that we're going to see in all fields of life with automation and smart machines, et cetera. On the other hand, creating a fragility that is unprecedented. Right? So when you look at it from a cyber perspective, I think the fact that we got a little bit more grounded and that we're trying to build real products for real consumers, for real enterprise, is a good thing. And I think that it'll enable us to do the most important thing, which is getting the critical mass of talent to solve real problems. And so for us specifically, this is sort of a blessing in disguise in the sense that we are now able to get more people to work on more focused problems that we believe are the real problems that we're going to see in 25, 26, 27.
Very good. Chenxi, over to you. You have a very interesting perspective on all the seed and early stage as well.
Right.
What did you see in the last 12 months?
Well, 2023, I agree, was a bit of a down year. Means that the volume of deals have decreased, the valuations by and large has decreased, which is a good thing because in the early, in 2021, 2022, seed is beginning to look like A and A is like B, the size wise, right? So we are a seed fund, so we saw so many deals that they come to raise $10 million seed, $20 million seed in 21, 22, and it's just kind of untenable at some point. So 23, we saw going back to more reasonable expectation of valuation, more reasonable, more robust business plan as well, as you said, Nadav, which is great. But one thing that is tipping the scale a little bit is AI. Right? So I sit in San Francisco Bay Area, and here you'll see like AI meetup here, AI meetup there. It's like every weekend, every Thursday. So and ton of AI deals get funded and towards the end of 2023. So that's kind of interesting because a lot of these AI deals you see are a thin layer on top of third-party LLM. So we'll see a lot of those come back to roost at some point as well. So
I can't wait to talk more about AI because I think each of them have created a generative AI security. So we're going to have a little match here between the folks on the floor here. But Chenxi, congrats. I'm glad you brought up AI. There was a bet in the back of the room that we could say it at least 100 times during the session. So we'll get there.
And who said it first? And who says it first?
And who says it first?
You won.
Chenxi
I
wins.
did.
Chenxi wins.
Won the door prize.
Yeah, you get the door prize. Yoav, you've had amazing success as well over the last 25 years.
Mostly with this
Incredible.
guy, actually.
Everybody here, amazing. Tell us what you saw in 2023 and a couple of kind of interesting trends that you watched in there as well. Just kind of looking backwards just for a minute, if you would. You have some really cool companies you invested in.
Thank you, I appreciate it. And actually, Chenxi and Nadav already said a lot of it, so I'm going to try to be additive a little bit. They mentioned that the 2023 had a big portion of seed deals. I think over 40% of the rounds were seed deals. Absolutely, but if you kind of look inside at what those seed deals were, I think that we saw a lot more second timers, more experienced founders, and I think as you talk to other investors in conversation, you'll see that more and more investors are looking for that experience, right? So I think that's been a bit of a flight to quality. It's kind of an interesting trend. I think it continues in 2024. Certainly, the companies that we look at are, mostly second timers, I would say. The other interesting thing is, as you've had a slowdown in growth stage VC, and that's mostly hangover from what Chenxi was saying, to 21, 22, those really high valuations. So there's been a slowdown, obviously. So 23 going into 24 as well. I think what's happening is kind of simple, actually. So companies have had very high valuations. There's companies that haven't raised since 21 because they were riding high, raising over $100 million, still living on that. Well, they can't agree terms with any growth investors at the moment, or it's very, very difficult. Sometimes when they can agree terms, there's a lot of structure in the deal, and it's not a real flat round, actually. It's actually a down round disguised as a flat round. So I think what's happening is, when you look at it from a market perspective, or a market maker perspective, there's, buyers and sellers are not meeting. I think what that does is it drives M&A. So we're seeing a lot more M&A. We're seeing a lot more M&A at the low end as well. All these, all these low valuation deals where strategic acquirers or private equity are able to pick up some assets that were overvalued. Now they're worth less. Investors are taking a haircut, relying on their liquidation preferences, things like that. And I think we're going to just be seeing more of that. So that's 2 cents there.
Mark, I want to pull on that a little bit what Yoav said, because for a guy who ran 3 or 4 big cyber companies, I've always talked about best of breed versus best of suite. Many of the big platform companies are calling it best of both worlds kind of thing, best of breed and best of suite. What are you seeing there as it comes to greenfields and brownfields and the big platforms, and where are you looking at investing these days?
Yeah, great. First of all, shout out to you and your team for organizing all this.
I didn't pay him for that.
Sarah, wherever you are on your team, we make this look easy. You do anyway, but the amount of work that goes into organizing this. So thank you, and then for Celia, wherever you are, for pulling all this together. And then for all of you for being here at 8:30 in the morning before this all starts. So hopefully you get something out of all this. To your question, 2 straws, 2 things to pull on. You're seeing in 2023 and then into 2024, the amount of dedicated cyber funds that are establishing themselves is on the rise. So Team 8 just raised a brand new fund this year. That's generally, as entrepreneurs, it's hard to raise. We're doing the same thing, raising. It's the same mechanism, same process. So in order to raise funds on the fund side, the amount of work and energy that goes into that is extremely hard. You've raised as well, you're raising as well. So the amount of funds, dedicated cyber funds that have raised this year alone is kind of a new record. No one's really tracking that, but just in terms of ability for entrepreneurs to have dedicated cyber knowledge on the fund side is, I think, a really interesting metric that's happening. It's a new factor as opposed to a couple of years ago, it was all generalist funds. And you'd have a cyber person on that fund, and they would have some knowledge, but then you're having to work with consumer GPs or investors. So that dynamic is changing significantly, and it's really picking up on the theme Yoav was saying is the quality of the entrepreneurs that we're seeing today is very high. These are repeat entrepreneurs. They know what they're doing, and it's accelerating their ability to get product to market and solve real problems. So I didn't really answer your question, but pulling all the way back to that is what we're seeing is the landscape is still dynamic, right? It's global, so it's not just US. We're seeing it in regions, and that's Europe, that's in the UK and Australia. Solutions to solve those problems, innovation is needed, and so the ability for us here to deploy capital into great entrepreneurs has not slowed down. In fact, it's picking up. We did a lot. We were very busy last year, very active. That hasn't slowed down in 2024.
Yeah, it's an amazing, vibrant environment. Cyber, I think particularly last night we hosted, and I'll give you just 1 minute, David Luber, who's the new incoming director of Cyber Directorate for the NSA, as well as Admiral Mike Rogers, who ran the NSA and the US Cyber Command. And they said something that I thought was really amazing. 2023, last 12 months, all-time record high threat environment. Like every metric you could possibly have. The number of net new actors, I'm adding this part, but Mandiant's report showed 953 net new actors in a 12-month period. When I was CEO of FireEye and Mandiant, we tracked about 880 groups total. Last year alone, there was 953 new ones. And so we're now up over 3,000 attackers in the world, organized attackers with unique TDPs, and we're watching nation states at the highest level. So the biggest data breaches, the biggest critical infrastructure disruptions, if you've seen Volt Typhoon and the work that was happening there with changes in TDPs, the attacks, the regional situations and wars that are happening, cognitive warfare with misinformation. I mean, we're living in, I guess, interesting times. So over to the team here. Anybody can answer as you want to see fit. With this threat environment and this risk environment, and hearing Admiral Rogers talk about we've got to do better as a whole community. We've got to, just because an existential threat's there. What areas of the market are you all seeing that are most important, do you believe, not only for investing, but also for securing the world, so to speak, for tomorrow? Whoever wants to go.
Here, I'll jump on it first. You picked a little bit narrative attacks. It's not something that was really talked about, but from enterprises' perspective, so think of disinformation and the use of that. And everything's so digital. Everyone's on their phones, walking around the conference. So the ability for bad actors to actually impact organizations, just leveraging the social media platforms. So disinformation has become, especially within the US, we've got an election coming, so the ramifications
We do?
are it's a rumor, hopefully. I don't know, who knows? But that might be disinformation too. So narrative attacks, I think, is something that is not talked a lot about, but the impacts are massive, and so that's another theme. We're certainly active in that environment. It's not your traditional area, and so that also crosses over. There's many CISOs in this room. There's many CISOs at this conference. The other thing that's shifting as well is just the buyers in the organizations. CISOs have a tough enough job as it is with the stacks you have. The budgets are either flat or going up and down, but then you have additional help from your procurement teams. You've probably got additional help coming in from your trust privacy officers. CMOs are getting in the mix of buying. So it's narrative attacks pulls through that whole theme because you got many people, many constituents within the organization adding value to that procurement process. But narrative attacks is a big area we're seeing.
I'm happy to jump in next.
Please.
Okay, I think Mark was intentionally avoiding the AI acronym in it, so I counted
So you're number two.
the whole 2 minutes and
Number two.
no
You're number
AI in
two.
there. So I got to say AI, right?
Nice.
Attackers leveraging AI, right? I mean, obviously that's a story, I think, of one of the big stories of 2024. So, when we're looking at backing defenders, new security vendors, I mean, obviously that's front and center. How are they defending against attackers that leverage AI? And so that's AI for security, right? How do the defenders leverage? And I'll say, there's a lot of, like Chenxi was alluding, there's just so much fluff and noise, and there's a lot of these, like Chenxi was saying, like basically very thin covers on top of real engines. Everybody's got a thin cover. So I think that's a great area to find good investments. I think the problem is finding good investments is really difficult. There's just so much noise in there. We would love to find more of these. The one that we did make, and I'll just that's my only plug for the evening probably, is AIM Security, which does the security for enterprises that are using Gen AI. So protecting against the malicious or erroneous use of employees or other attacks. So, and I think everybody on this panel has a portfolio company in that area, the Gen AI security area. But I think what's really interesting, and I'd love to find more, is leveraging AI to do better security, whether it's in the SOC or wherever.
I actually believe that area, leveraging AI for security, doing security operations better in a more efficient way, I think to me it's a larger market than securing the use of AI, but that's also an interesting area. One thing that, I did a keynote 2 days ago at B-Sides, and so they want me to talk about AI and cyber investment. So I told them that the way we look at it is, for AI investment, you can invest in AI models, which are, you build everything, data, everything up to model, which is the application for, you can build healthcare models, you can build fintech models, you can build security models. Or you can invest in AI infrastructure, which are horizontal layer, can underline many different models, right? And there are different risks in these categories. The first category, if you invest in models, you have to know that, do you have data that other people don't have, right? If you don't, then what makes your model better than other people's model, right? And there are a lot of models today I see are exactly as we talked about, thin layer on a third-party LLM. So I had one pitch to tell you guys, it's really funny. Those two guys came from an antivirus company, and they said, we can predict all the future malware ever gonna come out by asking LLMs.
Oh yeah, great.
And I was like, great. So you mean the attackers cannot ask the LLM for the same question? It's just a really interesting pitch that we see. On the side of AI infrastructure, you have to be careful how close you are to what we call the black hole. The black hole is what OpenAI and Anthropic, they would do, right? Because they are in the market of infrastructure. So if you get too close and they come out with something, your market is gone. So those are the different risks that I'm seeing, and we're really interested in those areas, so keeps looking, and we have a new investment in SOC, leveraging AI and using AI autonomous agents, really interesting.
Nadav, over to you. You're seeing a lot these days, obviously, with the conflict in Israel, Hamas. What have you been learning from that's driving sort of new opportunities and investments? You're a company builder, you've been building them a long time, you're a defender, you understand this well. Give the audience a little perspective of what you're thinking about building, maybe even as an outcome to what you're learning over the last 9 months.
Yeah, I think we're sort of in between paradigms for the first time in many, many years. I think the last time that we saw from a tech perspective, from an innovation perspective, I think the last time we saw something like this was 2007. The smartphone came out for the first time, and we didn't really understand how it's going to impact the world. The cloud became a real thing. And what we saw essentially is that attackers are better at adapting new technologies. They don't have the SEC, they collaborate better than we do. And so what they do is they take advantage of the exploding attack surface. In some ways, when I look at AI from both sides, on the one hand, you think about what's going to happen. I don't think it's going to be about securing AI, but rather how AI creates new infrastructures in ways that we don't know yet, right? And honestly, very hard to predict. So the way I see, when I look at AI specifically, I think the next couple of years are going to be worse for defenders. Because it's going to take time till we understand the impact of what we're putting in our networks. And we're already seeing attackers leveraging AI for phishing stuff, but they're going to do it in a much more sophisticated way, so I think it's going to get worse. However, maybe in a couple of years, AI for security can actually level the playing field. We always talk about this asymmetric battle between offense and defense. I think this is a technology that maybe for the first time will level the playing field. Now, having said all that, I'll say two more things that I was thinking about as I was preparing for the panel. Number one is beyond like everything new under the sun and nothing new under the sun, in the sense that when you think about it, you look at it from an enterprise perspective, we are innovators, we're investors, we think about the new cool technologies and we get pitched by all these wonderful sort of bright entrepreneurs with new ideas. But at the end of the day, if you're sitting from the enterprise perspective, the biggest thing that has happened in 2023 for me is the new SEC regulation. If you're a publicly traded company, the world has changed. We don't know how it's changed, but the fact that public companies now need to make disclosures on every minute thing, and the fact that CISOs are going to court personal liability, that's an earthquake in cybersecurity, right? So I think that's going to have a huge impact. And then the last thing I'll say, which is kind of an interesting phenomena, our business is moving so fast that some of the companies that we all invested 10 years ago are the incumbents. And now we're seeing startups that are going after companies that started 5 years ago. And so the cycle has become so fast. So I know I didn't tell you anything useful except for the fact that this is like a really interesting time, to your point. I think our industry is going to change dramatically in the next 10 years. And I think it's going to be more important than ever that we find the right innovators, we bet on the right innovators. And the last thing I'll say from our perspective to your question of how we do it, so we have one luxury, which is talking to a lot of CISOs. We have what we call the CISO village. And alongside with them, what we try to do is get together and think about possible futures, right? What is a possible future for 2027, 2028, 2030? Like sort of go into a time machine and try to imagine the world and give probabilities to different potential futures, and then come back to today, and before investing, before doing anything that needs capital, bring together ideators from different fields to think together, what can we do today? What kind of core technologies we need to start researching today to make an impact on the future? And that's where it's just a lot of fun to work with these people. And so, to your point, may we live in interesting times.
Which was both a curse and a blessing. So I want to transition for a second, but I want to tell you something that Nadav alluded to. Last year, NightDragon put out a report. I work with Homeland Security a lot. We were working on the SEC regulations, trying to get the porridge just right as best we could. But one of the most illuminating things that came out of our research, at least NightDragon did, was what percentage of boards of the Fortune 500 have anywhere near a cyber expert on it? Anybody read that report? Except for on the panel. 1.4%.
Oh.
So we lost $6 trillion last year, roughly, measured in trillions at least. One of the biggest existential threats to shareholders is these breaches. And we basically have Fortune 500 with 2 CISOs on the board, roughly, right? Even if you were to count adjacencies of cyber experts on the board, a technical expert, less than half of them had even a technical expert on the board. So when it comes to the governance at the board level, treating this as a risk, we are nowhere near where we need to be. Because again, cyber and the damages related to it and shareholder damages that come from it are very big problems in the world. So regulation now has met the threat environment, creating an even bigger perfect storm for companies. And most of these CISOs that we meet and know are very experienced business people, technical people, and understand how to be on a board and should be on a board.
And
in my opinion.
SEC actually walked back their requirement
Right.
of having
An expert.
Yeah,
Exactly,
an expert on
Chenxi.
the board.
We came this close. We were pushing for, driving that, but that's going to come in the future. Can I talk to you all about, I want you to, you have a lot of people in the room who are founders and things. Talk about what makes you have an investment. And just for 10 seconds, I call them the 3 T's, team, tech, and TAM. So I really look for, I'm a growth investor, I look for a big total addressable market. I look for technology that is already proven by one of these folks in the room. And then I look for a team who can scale the company. Like that's my motto for how to take a company into hundreds of millions. What are yours? Like, what do you look for as you make an investment? And there's a lot out there pitching you. You're getting hundreds of these on a regular basis. Mark, start with you. What is the core thing that makes you make an investment? If you can name 1 or 2 things.
1 or 2 things. 3 T's, for sure. I would say fit as well. So just as much work as the entrepreneur. If you're starting a company, you're looking at co-founders. The same energy and work you're doing for your co-founders, you should be doing with the investors, in the sense of how that's going to meld with your team and fit with your team. We can't go away. You can get rid of your VP of sales. We don't go away till there's an exit. So the amount of work the entrepreneurs are doing on us, that's a new trend I'm picking up. I think it's probably something you were picking up, pulling a thread on, is the second repeat entrepreneurs, the amount of work that they're doing in terms of pre-diligence on us, on a fund, and our co-investors is a new level that's happening in this year alone, in the window of 2024. Just from a backdoor references, the inbound we're getting, and that's a great thing. You should be doing, as an entrepreneur, you should be doing as much work on your cap table. We're going to sit on your cap table for the next 6 years, 3 years if you're really quick, or if you're one of Nadav's companies, it's 18 months, I think, is your window you're selling. So if it's anywhere from 18 months, for us, it's 10 years. So there's your, you really got to do your work. So the amount of work the entrepreneurs coming inbound to us, the pre-vetting in the sense of managing conflicts within portfolio is a new thing we're seeing, and just especially with this new, what's the last thing? AI, thanks. The amount of companies that are saying they're doing something, and how does that bleed into one another, or early stage bleeding into later stage companies. So trying to vet just even before you get in the door of, is it team tech and TAM fit with us, and then really filtering off. You coming into the door, you spent all the time to get to us, the prep you've done on your presentation, and then you 3 seconds in, oh, we have one of those. Yeah. So the amount of energy, so do the work up front.
Yeah, so just, it's hard to add to that because that was very comprehensive, but out of the 3 T's, I would say team is by far the most important. So we always say we bet on the jockey, not on the horse. I'd say team is 80%. The number one problem that we come up with when we're trying to invest in great teams is also something that Mark mentioned, which is portfolio conflict, right? So we have 16 live cyber companies. Mark has 116. Everybody's got a bunch of companies. And it's really hard for a new set of entrepreneurs to not conflict with one of the existing companies. And in the AI space, it gets even worse because everybody's really looking like they're doing the same thing. The other point I want to make is, and that's something that we've changed in our approach through 2023 and now, is we really look to partner with other investors, even at the seed stage. So we used to do 100% of the seed, right? Maybe leave a little bit of room for angels. Now it's changed. Now we're looking at deals together with people like, people here on the panel and others, co-investing, going in together. And I think that's a risk mitigation strategy. That's a flight to quality, and just kind of trying to help each other. So there's more of a community aspect now.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah,
Chenxi, how about you?
Community aspect is really important. I love to co-invest with people, and we worked on Twistlock, which was very successful, right?
Tori and Gutsy.
Gutsy, that's right. Second time around. So I do really, really early stage investments. So sometimes it's 2 people with a slide deck, an idea. So the team, just 2 people, and you have to imagine these 2 people can take an idea and scale to a large business. And usually 2 is not enough, right? They need others to join them. So you kind of have to see that the 2 technical people, are they open-minded enough to say, oh, well, we might have to hire a business leader, or maybe even cede the CEO seat to this person because we are more technical. And so we look for people who are more open-minded and who are, can take input, right? And I don't like founders who say, I can do everything. I can do marketing better than that person. I can do sales better than that person. You cannot, because one person is not enough. So.
Nadav, give your perspective. You built a lot of companies now from zero. Talk about the gates and the things that you do to kind of get a company off the ground, because it's an incredible recipe of strategy that I think you've deployed. Maybe tell everybody just for a minute what you do.
Yeah, you know, we're sort of ultra focused. We call ourselves a foundry. It's sort of like a studio model. And we'll only do 1 or 2 companies a year. And they will go through an incredible amount of vetting before they get off to the races. Because I think maybe 10 years ago, maybe for sure 20 years ago, you could like find something and say, I'm going to start a company here. By the time somebody really understands that I'm off to the races, maybe there'll be 1 or 2. Hey, let's face it. So you know, Mark spoke about how much money is going into proprietary cyber funds. So in any field that really matters, you're going to see at least 5, 6, 8, 9 competitors. Right? It is what it is. And so for me, at least, when we look at a problem set and an idea and we start this ideation process that usually takes about 12 months, goes through 3 excessive milestones, the question is very simple. And we all ask ourselves this question is, do we have a podium company? Like, are we going to be 1, 2, maybe 1, 2, or 3, or we don't have a chance to be a podium company? So if we think that we don't have a chance to be a podium company, we're not going to get into it. If we think we have a chance to get into a podium company because we have vetted it with 100 CISOs, because we've already written some code and we're playing around it, when we have an idea that we can actually build it, then I think it comes to, this is sort of the science. Then the art, I think, and if I go to the podium and if you think about like Formula 1, you know, there's 20 drivers. They have almost identical cars. They all have great investors. They all went to the same unit in the military. They all went to the same business school. They're all second-timers. They all got a bunch of money put into this, and they're all, you know, going to solve something very similar. Now, how do you differentiate which one of them is going to be a podium? You know, my best sort of metaphor is if you go into this sort of idea of Formula 1, I look for a leader that can do 2 things. In peacetime, make less mistakes. So the unforced errors, like who can make less mistakes on hiring, on recruiting, on firing, on building, etc. So that's one aspect of it. And you know, you see founders that are, you know, are very experienced and risk averse, and they'll make less mistakes. What we can offer them is a platform of super experienced people that have been doing this for the 20th time, so they can say, hey, I think this is going to be a mistake. Now they have to listen, or they don't. On the other side, there are times where you can accelerate and take incredible risk. Right? So for example, if you were at a Formula 1, everybody, you know, the one that has all the advantages is going to win, unless it starts raining. When it starts raining, everybody's skidding around. Now this is your chance to do something incredible. So I look for that, the jockey or the driver or the CEO at the end of the day, the leader, that in peacetime is opened for a lot of advice to you know, minimize the unforced errors. And every once in a while, when there's an opportunity, is bold enough to take enough risk so that we can become that podium. Because out of the podium, you know, we all talk about the companies that are successful, but believe me, for every one that is, or 2, maybe 3, there are a dozen that are going nowhere.
Well said. I have so many acronyms, so I love pulling on this. I call it the 4 H's, if you haven't heard this before too. I talk about honesty, humility, hard work, and hunger. So the first couple are, honesty really important. You got to be honest with your investors. Humility is really important in this world just because of the competition. Got to outwork your competitors. But that hunger, that X factor, because when there is 20 in the race, can you be a podium, really makes a difference, at least when I look at it too. So I'm going to do 2 lightning round questions for this group. And then anybody who wants to ask a question, there's a microphone right here. We give awards for best questions. So, no, we don't. But we like good questions, if you would. So think about a question in the last 5 minutes or so. Lightning questions for you. I'm just going to go in order. I want to hear the biggest new category that you're seeing in the worlds of cyber. And then I'm going to flip it the other way, and the biggest one that's going to get disrupted in the near term. So kind of a greenfield, brownfield thing. So I'm not sure what comes to mind first in this order. Nadav closed his eyes there for a second, so we'll wait. But what new area do you see? Like Wiz comes along, grows from 0 to 100 million in 3 years, right? We've never seen this before, right? And suddenly the hyperscaler happens in cloud security. What other segments are you seeing that look like that?
I'll jump in so Mark has another minute to think.
Okay.
So application detection and response, I think, is fascinating. So, you've got EDR, you got network, but when you're looking inside the application and you know everything that's going on inside, I think that presents a huge opportunity for security. So that's one. And what's going to be disrupted more and more, I think, is in security governance. Basically, the way the CISO runs their shop, all the operations, all that has to be, some are running their shops extremely well, but there's a bunch that could use improvement, and I think there's companies that are addressing that.
Quick identity. So you've got TB owning basically the whole identity space. You run the board.
Thoma Bravo.
Sorry. So identity ripe for disruption with Thoma Bravo owning all of it. Areas, third-party risk for needs serious help. That's where AI, there's my first AI term. So AI meets the third-party risk, helping on that.
Third-party risk, yep. 1 or 2 breaches in the third-party risk world recently. Supply chain.
That's the rumor. Yeah.
Chenxi, what's your view?
For security operations significantly disrupted by the use of automation and AI. So we'll see, I think security teams will look very differently in 5 years than they are now. So today you may have detection response, you may have incident response, you may have identity people, SecOps. I don't know. In 5 years, you may have a single team that is tuning your models.
Interesting. Yep. Security operations.
Yep.
Nadav, what do you think? Biggest new greenfield.
I'll say the intersection of optimization and security. So security companies that are not just about security, I think, are about to emerge. Security companies that are actually focused on saving capital for the organization. That's one thing that I'm interested in. And the second thing that we've been trying to do for the last 10 years at least is insurance. And I still think there isn't a really good solution for that.
Yeah, very, very interesting. Any other comments on what's the most disruptable segment? You mentioned identity. I tend to agree with you a lot on that area, particularly with deepfakes and AI now driving change to that market.
DLP, another DLP.
Data loss prevention areas.
Everybody complains about DLP. No, that's going to be disrupted.
SIM for me.
Yeah.
SIM. Decoupling of the SIM, I agree. I think the SIM is going to get decoupled from SOAR, SIM, everything together. Cloud's changing, observability meets events. I agree with you, Chenxi. What do you think, Nadav? What gets disrupted?
I think the question is not what gets disrupted. I'm trying to think of who gets disrupted.
Okay. Name a few names. No investors in this room. If you want, whatever you feel comfortable.
I think that the large cloud players will get disrupted because I think that when you put together the cost on the one hand and the severity of something that could happen, which would have like a rippling effect across all the industry, I think those are ready to be disrupted.
Yep. All right, we're going to open it up to questions, but I'll make a comment. Anybody wants to walk up here? I'll give you my 3 for whatever it's worth, since I'm really shy. So number one, I'll tell you about the biggest risks I see in the near term for whatever it's worth. Number one, I agreed with Mark. Misinformation, disinformation, narrative intelligence, got to get our arms around that. We can't understand and believe what we're reading anymore. We need content integrity, at least a warning of what we're reading. If we don't solve that problem, we have 64 elections, 64 countries up for democracy changes in the next 12, 18 months. This is a problem. Came out of the World Economic Forum, Davos said this is a problem. Number two I worry about is electromagnetic warfare, EW, electronic warfare. I believe the future of cyber is hacking through RF as opposed to hacking through files. We're starting to see that bleeding edge around the world. I think we'll be talking in the next year, 2, 3 years. We won't transmit spear phishing files. We're going to hack each other through NFCs, through other types of radio frequencies. We're going to disrupt, destroy, and do things electronically. That's in a near-term horizon, and we're watching military and intelligence operations because of wars accelerate that problem. And we're going to be worrying about how to build cyber domes over things and shields through things. It's just coming in my world. And part of that is AI-driven swarm intelligence that we're starting to see. If you didn't see CNN the other day, Admiral James Stavridis talked a lot about the number one thing is the aging of our Navy fleet so fast because of surface, submerged, and air drones that are now being able to do swarm intelligence to attack things. And that problem is coming very quickly here. Doesn't hit cyber as you just see it right down the bowling alley, but in a way, we have to protect all our physical assets in a different way, and many security professionals have to figure out how to protect both physically and cyber, so whatever it's worth, those three. How about questions? Who wants to ask questions? This brave
Sunil.
Yeah, you get the door prize, Sunil.
Love it.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks for your insights. So there's a lot of perverse incentives in VC, and a lot of us are here for mission. So help us understand how we can align the two better. Because when we think about mission, for example, and total addressable market, a lot of things don't fit the TAMs that you're looking for. And there's a lot of concerns, for example, down market. And I wonder if there's a way to align our incentives better with the people who are here for mission versus people who need to make money as well.
We have 4 amazing mission backgrounds here. Who wants to take mission together with the way they look at it?
And just to anchor it a little bit further, I think, for example, the SMB market, they've been dying for capability for a long time, and it hasn't been until the TAM has gotten to a point where now it's profitable from the standpoint of VC, but boy, don't we wish it would have happened much earlier?
Here, I'll take a whack at it. So your
Great question. Yep.
TAM piece, most of us, a lot of us are early stage investors, so the TAM quite often with those companies isn't established yet. So you're betting on an entrepreneur, you're betting on a problem. To Nadav's point, you're looking forward 3, 4 years, because someone starting today, it's going to take them 12 months to build something, 6 months, 8 months, 12 months. So you're going to be in market starting from now, 12 months from now. So I think TAM is less. So the incentives for early stage, I think, are perfectly aligned with early stage investors. On mission, second part of the question, that's a big part of what we do, for sure, is solving and driving outcomes for customers, be it on enterprise, be it the 5 Eyes. So I think that's kind of woven into the DNA of the investors that you're going to be engaging with. I think the incentives there, personally, from our firm, are totally aligned on that front.
I think not everything has to be venture-backed, right, Sunil? So there are venture-backed companies doing good work, mission-driven. There are also non-venture-backed companies doing really well, mission-driven. There are also strategic investors who don't really look at returns the same way that we look at. And those investors can sometimes bet on companies that are really strategically aligned with their mission. So I think the world has many choices.
And I want to make a comment on the SMB, just address that, because most VCs don't invest in sort of SMB-facing solutions. We pretty much don't either, because it's just so hard to crack that nut in terms of marketing costs, distribution costs. I mean, there's companies like Dave's old company, McAfee, that cracked it, and there's others that have been able to go, to small businesses, but it's just too difficult. We'd love to be hunting big elephants and big fish as opposed to, the really small customers.
Okay, I think Alex has given us the hook on more questions. I can see him blocking over there for more. Is that right?
Yeah,
okay.
sorry. Yep.
No worries. Hey, let me wrap it up by, again, just saying good morning. Thank you, everybody, for coming bright and early to hear us. I really want to thank all my friends here, 100+ years of investment experience, incredible investors, and really appreciate the camaraderie and collegiality working with you all. And I wish you all the best of luck this year. Thank you, everybody, for coming, and have a wonderful day. Appreciate you all. Thank you.